Hello, welcome back to the Premier League review. Today we're going to be talking Newcastle versus Chelsea, Wolves versus Arsenal and Manchester United's game at Craven Cottage versus Fulham. But unfortunately we've got to start on another note. Cristiano Ronaldo has done an interview with Piers Morgan saying that the club have betrayed Cristiano Ronaldo. So I'll give it a quick listen and then we'll go through my thoughts on the issues that Cristiano brings up.
They're trying to force you out.
Yes, not only the coach, but the other 2 or 3 guys there around the club.
At the senior executive level.
Yes, that I felt betrayed.
And you think they're trying to get rid of you?
Honestly, I shouldn't say that, I don't know, but listen, I don't care, I'm always, people should listen the truth. Yes, I feel betrayed, and I felt that some people that don't want me here, not only this year, but last year too.
This is incredibly rich from a player that has wanted to leave Manchester United from the summer to this point. Clearly stating in the off-season that he wanted to play for a club that played in the Champions League. United, obviously, Europa League. And that's where Cristiano Ronaldo's played his most minutes this season for United, is in the Europa League. And this is an interview that is so mistimed. He's been ill for, 2-3 weeks of the season. He's missed it with other injuries. He's been in and out. He didn't come on against Tottenham when he was supposed to come on. This is absolutely, shocking behaviour from a player that should know. 37 years old, he should be an all-time pro, should know exactly what to do in these types of situations. So I think, quite frankly, Ronaldo has let down the manager. He's disrespected the club, the badge, the history of the footballing institution, and quite frankly, it's not right. From a footballing perspective, this season Ronaldo has been absolutely awful. 1 goal in 10 appearances in the Premier League. You're looking at his conversion rate in all competitions, 4%. Fred's conversion rate is 7.1%, which is better than Ronaldo's. Looking at other statistics that, quite frankly, are absolutely ridiculous for Ronaldo to put himself on such a high pedestal for Manchester United this season. We're looking in the Europa League, real, misfiring performances. He's missed 6 big chances in the Europa League, which is the most in the competition. He's also missed 2 big chances in the Premier League. He's taken 56 shots in all competitions and just scored 3 goals. And it's just disappointing. It's disappointing to see a player that's achieved so much at Manchester United basically kind of throw a lot of that away with a lot of the fan base, and it's completely understandable, the reaction online. I think the way that he talks about Manchester United and the betrayal is it's painting a picture of a player that cares more about himself than Manchester United, which is a huge, huge problem.
I don't know what's going on, but since the Sir Alex Ferguson left, I saw not evolution in the club. The progress was 0. For example, you have an interesting point that how the club as Manchester United, after suck Ole, they bring sport directive Ralf Rangnick, which is something that nobody understands. This guy is not even a coach.
Again, you look back at that Ralf Rangnick time and you think about, did the players respect this manager who's managed in the Bundesliga, managed RB Leipzig to a 2nd place finish in the Bundesliga, has a massive history in improving clubs from a sporting director position. This sounds like he comes into the club, they don't even care. I understand what Cristiano Ronaldo is saying in terms of sacking Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and not having a plan. That was apparent, but that is something that's been there for a long, long time. It almost feels like they didn't even back Ralph for a bit of time, I suppose. That's just my own bias coming in right now.
Like Manchester United bring sport directive, surprised not only me, but all the world. Nothing changed. Surprisingly, not only the pool, the jacuzzi, even the gym, even some points, the technology, the kitchen, the chefs, which is I appreciate, lovely persons. They stop in a time which is it surprised me a lot. I thought I will see different things, as I mentioned before, technology, infrastructure, but unfortunately, we see many things that I'm used to see when I was 20, 21, 23, so surprised me a lot.
Again, I don't think they're wrong points. I think that Cristiano Ronaldo is absolutely spot on in his evaluation of the football club. This isn't a surprise to me. I don't know if it's a surprise to you guys watching the video. Let me know in the comments, with how United have improved as a football team since Fergie left is obviously been humongous decay in everything from transfers to recruitment to, like Ronaldo's saying, the gym, and that's a big thing. It just feels like this is the wrong place for Ronaldo to communicate that in this situation. I just don't like how he's kind of gone in there and massively disrespected what Erik ten Hag's doing, and Erik ten Hag is, by all accounts, and what I can see from a footballing perspective, is improving Manchester United slowly. And he obviously doesn't think Ronaldo's as good as what Ronaldo thinks he is good, and that's a humongous problem. I think there's a few problems through issues that have been brought up, and I completely agree with them, that what Cristiano's saying, it's just the timing, the way that he's done it, it's just completely wrong. And it tarnishes his reputation at Manchester United, in my opinion, and how he's gone through this and kicked up this fuss at this time. I understand where he's coming from with the other issues, but at the same time, it just feels completely misplaced and almost embarrassing for a player that is coming to the back end of his career and arguably just can't accept it. And you look into the performances, the data, it highlights it, over and over again. I think a lot of United fans are going to turn on Cristiano Ronaldo from this point, and so they should. I think it's very disrespectful to release something like this after saying that you're ill, after not coming on as a substitute and storming off out of Old Trafford. It's kind of embarrassing in a sense. And I think Erik ten Hag's tried to mend the relationship between him and Cristiano. He gave him the captaincy in a game, 2 games ago? And, the disrespect that he's shown Erik ten Hag, the disrespect he's shown the history of the club, in my opinion, it's just not right. So the sooner that Cristiano leaves, I think the better for Manchester United. I think the better for Cristiano in his own self. I think the other side of that is, you're looking at him trying to force himself out in the summer and then coming back and now saying he's been betrayed and they're forcing him out. You're like, come on, Cristiano. You're better than that. Anyway, let's move on to the football. They're my thoughts on Cristiano Ronaldo. Needs to leave United sooner rather than later. It kind of completely overshadows a brilliant performance from United, a 2-1 win away at Fulham, a last-minute winner from Alejandro Garnacho. Garnacho's been directly involved in the same amount of non-penalty goals as Cristiano Ronaldo this season. Again, highlighting the lack of ability that Ronaldo has shown in recent months for United, and the lack of, kind of work and concern around that. Anyway, let's move into the Premier League review. First up, we're going to be talking about Newcastle versus Chelsea in the Premier League. A massive, massive result for Eddie Howe's side. A performance that you can look back on and we can really see what this Eddie Howe side is. Pressing, aggressive, and got quality going forward, but also big quality at the back. At the moment, Eddie Howe's Newcastle sit third in the Premier League, 30 points from 15 games played, a goal difference of plus 18. It's an incredible sort of turnaround if you consider literally 12 months ago, this time last season, they were sitting bottom of the Premier League and looked short of ideas and short of options. In terms of the game, I thought it was an interesting game for Graham Potter, and there is question marks that are coming out about Graham Potter in terms of his style and his formation. Is he picking the right ones, and why is he constantly changing this? This is Graham Potter. Graham Potter is a tinker manager. He changes things in game to try and affect his side's performances, and that is what he has always been. He's great at that. The style that he had with Brighton would be the same independent of formation. I think that's credit to him as a coach. The issue for me at the moment for Chelsea is it feels like he's picking the wrong formation at the wrong time. Obviously, injuries in this game, especially with Loftus-Cheek going off so early, did affect it. Does affect the style. If we just look from a basic tactical level, between the two sides, a 4-3-3 from Newcastle versus Chelsea's 5-2-1. The big advantages for the 5 at the back versus this 4-3-3 is the wing-backs and how they can impact in the final third from an attacking perspective, creating that kind of 5-on-4 on the back line. The issue for Chelsea, I thought, as soon as Loftus-Cheek went off injured and Chelsea had to bring on Thiago Silva and shift Azpilicueta to right wing-back, played Thiago in the middle, was that thrust has kind of gone. The thrust that was being brought by Ruben Loftus-Cheek in an attacking sense, or what it could bring, completely gone in the game. Therefore, kind of negating the system for me, and Chelsea really, really, really struggled out of the back. Newcastle's pressing was brilliant. They squeezed them super high up the pitch. There was a kind of, aggressive man-to-man press from the front three versus Chelsea's back three. We saw aggression in central midfield from Longstaff and Willock on Kovacic and Jorginho. Obviously, there was a little bit of interchange between Joe Linton and Willock's positioning, as we see. We kind of saw with the goal as well. And then the fullbacks were super aggressive, dependent on where the ball side was. It really forced, Chelsea to to really struggle out of the back. And there were so many moments in the game where we'd see Chelsea get squeezed by Newcastle. You know, they play into that midfield area, they move it around and they get back to Mendy, and Mendy literally had no option. The only option he really had, if let's say Chelsea were building down the left-hand side of the pitch, was the long switch out to right back, or alternatively the long switch out to that left wing back position. Chelsea were really struggling to play out from the back, and I think the system allowed, you know, Newcastle to press high. I didn't think there was any, you know, there was no kind of problems with them squeezing super high up the pitch. I thought Mount and Gallagher weren't really connected to the two defensive midfielders. One of the things that I thought going into the game was Mason Mount in a sort of diamond, being able to play him at number 10, and that kind of would allow them to play through. And that was a big concern for Chelsea. They just couldn't get past that Newcastle press time and time again. I think one player that did kind of excel in the game that's really impressed me, Lewis Hall, provided some good quality down the left-hand side. I think his final ball, especially crossing, needs to be worked on. 4 crosses, only finding the target with one of them, but created 2 chances, one from a corner and one from a really nice pass into the feet of Brozier inside the penalty area, which I really liked. But I felt that Chelsea lacked ability to play through, and then when they were in the final third, getting those attackers involved. You know, statistically, Mason Mount completed just 12 passes in 73 minutes of the game. This is a player that loves to get on the ball, that, you know, will play make, will create, and you know, no shots at all, no chances created. I think that shows the kind of ineffective ability of Chelsea's kind of game plan from the start. And credit to Graham Potter in a sense, he did change it with substitutions. You know, you're looking at half-time, bringing on Christian Pulisic for Cesar Azpilicueta, and kind of switching his shape to that kind of 4-4-2, you know, diamond that we've seen kind of over and over again. Kovacic going into midfield, Jorginho single holder, Chalobah to right back, Hall to left back, Mason Mount to number 10. And Chelsea were much better in the game from that point, but obviously the natural width of the 4-3-3 does catch you out, and the goal obviously came from Almiron receiving after a really good build-up play from Newcastle United and then driving across the pitch. You know, that's the issue when you're playing a 4-3-3 versus a diamond, that, you know, wide players will have space to come inside, or alternatively you'll open up other space on the pitch, and that combination play and then Willock arriving with his shot from the edge of the box really opened up Chelsea. And that was a kind of concern through the entire game for me, is that Newcastle looked like they always had the advantage from a tactical perspective. You know, Eddie Howe's pressing from the start, then the width versus the narrow 4-4-2 diamond. Graham Potter needs to start getting his selections a little bit better from a tactical perspective, but also from a personnel perspective in the second half of the season, because it is a bit of a worry for Chelsea at the moment, with Newcastle flying, with Tottenham flying, with Manchester United opening up a little bit of a gap. Chelsea are 5 points behind Manchester United and 8 points behind Tottenham in 4th place. It's going to be a big performance second half of the season for Graham Potter to make the top 4. So let's move on to the second game we're going to talk about. That is Arsenal's away game with Wolverhampton Wanderers. It was an ugly, ugly game. Wolves absolutely sucked the life out of the game. The 5 at the back, the 3 in midfield, the 2 up front, it was absolutely disgusting. And Arsenal really struggled in that first half to kind of break down the deep block of Wolves. I think there was a bit too much space between units, I found, you know, in terms of the attacking unit, in terms of the kind of defensive units, and kind of how it all worked together. It felt a little bit disjoint in that first half. It felt like there wasn't enough support wide, there wasn't enough support on the ball, and you know, Arsenal really struggled to open up Wolves. There wasn't, you know, many clear-cut opportunities, and there was one from a deep ball from Martinelli over the top to Jesus, who was just a little bit offside. Probably the only option in that first half. And I think one of the things that tactically kind of helped Arsenal was Granit Xhaka's injury, which obviously is, you know, we don't want to say getting injured is a good thing, but on 16 minutes, Fabio Vieira came on the pitch to replace Granit Xhaka in this deep position. In the first half, he kind of stayed in a bit of a deeper position building, but in the second half, Mikel Arteta made a few changes at half-time, and Ramsdale's interview after the game basically spoke about how they tried to overload the wide areas more. But I think the more important thing was getting Fabio Vieira in a higher position and Martin Odegaard a little deeper. You know, consequently, what we saw was actually Vieira playing as that kind of number 10 in the system, and Odegaard playing more as an 8 in that second half. Not only did it give Odegaard the ball in deeper areas that could escape that Wolves press, but the forward movement of Fabio Vieira was absolutely fantastic. I think one of his biggest, you know, best traits in a sense is running, you know, in between a back line, running behind a back line, and finding holding that space and having the composure to kind of make the difference. It felt like Arsenal were getting more bodies forward. I think we saw more from Zinchenko on the overlap. We saw more from Ben White on the overlap. Frequently, we saw 6 players in the penalty area for Arsenal, which eventually won them the game. And I think the big thing from a Vieira perspective is his skill set is different to what Arsenal have got, and we're going to see that in the second half of the season. I think as teams sit even deeper against Arsenal, Vieira, Odegaard, Partey, that midfield. So just to highlight a few moves from Vieira, this is after the first goal, but I just wanted to highlight his movement in behind again. He's a player that will move into these high areas and then spin, and it wasn't happening for Arsenal in that first half. It felt like Odegaard was getting attracted to the ball. Xhaka was kind of deep on the ball, sort of the first 15 minutes of the game, should I say. And there wasn't anyone spinning in and causing the movement. Even when, Vieira came on, it felt like he was in a deeper position for that first half. And then he was moved into a higher area to really start to cause Wolves some problems. What you want to do against the back three is have that movement in behind, pulling the centre-backs into positions or the wing-backs into positions that they don't want to defend. That's something I thought Vieira did really, really well. From a perspective of the goal, again, what we saw in the first half was a lack of interplay between the front 5 forwards for Arsenal, a lack of kind of cohesion in a sense. Felt they built pretty well into the final third, but then when they got to the final third, the fluidity wasn't quite there. What we can see really well here is how Arsenal have properly rotated as a side. We've got Jesus, Vieira, Odegaard and Martinelli, and then Saka out wide. Better in terms of the fluidity of that attack. The number 9's move wide causes problems for that back three. But what I said before about Vieira, his ability to get in behind defences, I think is going to become a real asset for Arsenal as teams kind of defend their penalty box, as they will do in the second half of the season. With Arsenal being top of the league right now, they're going to start to play Arsenal differently. And obviously Wolves got good success in that first half, so it could be a blueprint. But Vieira's movement in behind, I think, is going to become a key part of Arsenal unlocking these deep defences. Not only his ability to find the space and run into the space, but his touch is fantastic when he got there. We could see now Gabriel Jesus cutting inside. The ball is on to Martinelli, but the reverse is on as well. It's a fantastic ball from Jesus in behind the defence for Vieira. And what we can see now, the situation that Arsenal weren't creating in that first half is pulling those centre-backs one way and then using the movement on the back post. As we could see, Arsenal, there is bodies in the box, which is something that was more frequent in the second half than in the first half. And as Vieira kind of spins in behind, there is those 2 options that basically have created a 2v1 on the back post for Vieira to pick out the ball. But I thought that was a big part of Arsenal's game in the second half. Vieira's forward motion, Arsenal committing bodies into the box. And the second goal as well, we mentioned Vieira moving in behind defences, but also from a tactical perspective, we mentioned Zinchenko getting a lot, far higher and wider in that second half, not playing completely inverted, but also going on the overlap as well. And that led to the second goal, which obviously Arsenal got a lot of bodies in the box, 6, including the crosser, which wasn't happening. You need to overload a back 5 at times with more players, and Arsenal did that much better in that second half. And obviously the ball from Zinchenko just before the goal happens. Zinchenko in this position, obviously Martinelli has a shot, and then Odegaard fires in the rebound, but just this highlights Arsenal's different structure. And credit to Mikel Arteta, he changed things. He went more attacking in the second half, and that is, one of the big reasons why Arsenal sit top of the Premier League. Arteta's ability to change games. Talking about changing games, let's move on to Manchester United, the final game of the review today. United faced Fulham in a pretty difficult game. Fulham have been a tough team to play. You think the result they got last week against Man City, only lost 2-1. It was a 95th minute winner for Man City. You think the performance against Liverpool, the 2-1 win there, they are a tough nut to crack. And I think United deserve a bit of credit to credit in their performance, but also their ability to unlock the door for Manchester United. And you've got obviously Christian Eriksen, man of the match, a goal, an assist. His performances was good. What I liked about his performances was I think he was better on the ball than he has been on recent weeks. I'm still slightly concerned with the pass accuracies of Man United's central midfield players. 83% for Eriksen, 67% for Casemiro, and 68% for Bruno. That's something that needs to be improved. United lose the ball in silly areas at times, and that's something that they definitely need to kind of start to have a little bit more control of the game. So I think United lost control of the game, especially in that second half. I thought first half very, very good. Some really good interchange and movement and passing. I think we've seen some of the best football. The 1-2s with Eriksen, Bruno, combining with the front 5, really, really good. But the consistency in performance is something that really needs to be built on in the sort of second half of the season. More dominant, more chances created, more consistency, and more attacking elements of the team. I think one player that we need to talk about, obviously, is Luke Shaw. Really good on the ball. I thought some of his passes inside were brilliant in terms of the style that Man United want to play, waiting for the right moment, being patient, and then breaking the press time and time again. Could have arguably got 2 assists in the game as well. For Manchester United, the first one coming in the first half, a classic kind of inverted cross. Rashford dropping the ball back to Luke Shaw as United are committed 4 bodies into the box. And then Martial just heading over. Second half, really good ball in from Luke Shaw into the penalty area. Found his target. We know that Luke Shaw's got that technical quality. We just need to see that more consistently for Manchester United. And of course the second half combining really well with Alejandro Garnacho on the overlap and a ball to Scott McTominay. But again, great options for United in the penalty area, and Luke Shaw finding McTominay in the middle. Should have come away with 2 assists. But the other side of Luke Shaw's game, the concentration. Really good on the ball, really good attacking wise, but the concentration for the Fulham goal wasn't really there, and that's something that really needs to become a consistent part of his game if he's going to become a top player for Manchester United. So let's take a look at the Fulham goal. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes's poor touch from Christian Eriksen's poor pass. Malacia's positioning is inside. It's waiting to receive the ball. Williams not tracked him at all. Counter-attack is on, and basically United are in this situation we've seen over and over again. They're 2 centre-backs defending the channels. What I thought Luke Shaw did very well in this move is get back. He showed great pace to catch up with Dan James and get back into a good defensive position. And that's kind of the frustration with Luke Shaw, is that he's in a really good position right now. He's got back onto his man. He's, goal side of the winger. He's protecting that left-hand flank next to Lisandro Martinez. But the big thing now is he has to make that defensive action. It's his man on the back post. He simply needs to cover that run, and he stops in the box. And these are tiny little things where he has to track his runner. He has to not switch off in this area, because it put Fulham back into the game. And arguably United could have lost some points, which could be crucial at the back end of the season. I thought Luke was brilliant in possession, good creatively as an outlet. That defensive mistake was big. Something he needs to just improve. And of course, United had to go to the bench and were saved by Alejandro Garnacho, which has been a bit of a common theme in recent weeks. Garnacho becomes the 4th youngest academy graduate to score a Premier League goal for Manchester United, behind Federico Macheda, Danny Welbeck and Marcus Rashford at 18 years and 136 days. Garnacho has now been directly involved in 4 goals in his last 4 games. 3 of those involvements off the bench. Absolutely fantastic how he took his goal. The strength, the composure, the pace to get there as well. The 1-2 of Christian Eriksen was absolutely brilliant. He is a man that I'm excited to watch at the back end of the season. Of course, we've got a little bit of a break for the World Cup. Bruno Fernandes gave his thoughts on the World Cup in a post-match interview. We know the surroundings around the World Cup, what has been in the last few weeks, the last few months, about the people who have died on the construction of the stadiums. We are not happy about that at all. I think it's a great statement from Bruno Fernandes. He's a leader, he's a captain of Manchester United, and he's a good person. I think this is something that needs to continually be highlighted. And in the interview with Christian Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes, it was highlighted, which I think is really important going into the tournament. Thanks for watching, guys. Get into the comments below what you thought of all those games. Cristiano Ronaldo as well. Ugh, there's a bad taste in my mouth. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Subscribe if you're new, like the goddamn video, and we'll see you later.